Hi, I'm Jerry Flynn, host of the BSD Q&A sessions. The Q&A sessions provide a marvellous opportunity for all our students, especially the students who have a passionate interest in the performing arts and are curious about a career within the industry. We get to meet acclaimed professionals, award-winning professionals in their field, be they actors, designers, writers, directors and stage managers. So join us for the BSD Q&A sessions. This is incredibly exciting for us, students. This is a rare occasion. We are extremely fortunate. We have arguably one of the greatest actors of the modern era.
Yeah.
And I've known for since 1981.
Go on, Jerry.
Yes. I will. It's just the years passing by. That's the shocker. But since 1981, when I first had the incredible opportunity to walk onto a stage and give her a bowl of soup. And from then on, I never looked back in terms of my catering career. I then had the great good luck to work with her, to learn from her, to be just glowing in her company and in her stage presence in Antony and Cleopatra, another work that I did at the National at that time. And what she cannot teach actors, and what actors cannot tell you about her, the wonderful stories, the warmth that she has and gives to people. You could write volumes and volumes.
Jerry, the behaving badly.
Everybody, but the one person I certainly don't want to embarrass is Judi Dench. Could you give her a great round of applause? How are you?
I'm grand, Jerry, thank you. I'm glad this nightmare of the past couple of years is kind of almost coming to an end. I don't like to say that too kind of.
I know. Well, it's sort of, we're kind of, well, I don't know what it looks like with all our face masks on, but there we are. It's kind of.
I can't see, Jerry, I can't see anything. I can't even see my own face here, which is quite large. And I certainly can't see you, so I'm just guessing.
All right, okay.
Okay.
Well, if I sit any closer to the camera, my nose is going to be all over it. So there we go. To begin at the beginning. Beginnings. I've got a question for you, and I'm going to ask a lovely student to come up and sit next to me. And she's got a question, and that is Rebecca Carell. Rebecca, if you'd like to just pop up and ask your question. Don't worry about those. She's got a question, and fire away. You can take your mask off. There we
Hello,
go.
Rebecca.
Hello, Miss Dench.
Just call me Judy. Just call me Judy. I don't want Miss or Dame.
Yes.
Judy's fine.
Hello, Judy. My name's Rebecca. What was the first role that you ever played, and what was it that made you want to be an actor?
I didn't originally want to be an actor. I wanted to be a set designer. And I went to an art school, and that's what I halfway through, well, almost halfway through my training. I did my brother. I had two brothers, and my second brother only ever wanted to be an actor. He went to the Central School. He came home and was unbelievably enthusiastic about it. And I kind of caught it from him, like measles, you know. I just caught a kind of thinking, if he's having such a good time, I'd quite like that. And so I tried for the Central School and I got in. And that's really, I mean, I came from a family who loved going to the theatre, and I was taken to see all my brothers in plays. And I was taken to see the repertory theatre, sorry about my cough, repertory theatre. And so I was steeped in it in a way. I don't suppose I could escape from it. So I'm very, very pleased to have done it. And I get, when you say what's the best play you've ever, or there are so many that I don't know where to, and I love them for all sorts of reasons.
Did your mum and dad support you very freely with that? Was that a big thing for them to accept that you wanted to be an actor?
Oh, my parents, I mean, they took us to the theatre all the time, and also my pa was in an amateur, though a doctor, was in an amateur group. So I at a very early age, I went to the theatre, and we were all encouraged to go, and we were all dressed up all the time, the boys and I.
I've got another question from student Suhina. Where are you? Suhina, come and sit. If you could ask Judy your question, this might connect with what you're saying. Away you go.
Hello, my name is Suhina Govender, and I was wondering what your first professional role was as an actor and what you learned from it.
Well, so this is called a lucky strike. It was because I did 3 years at the Central School, and at the end of the 3 years, we had a public showing where not all the public, but people from theatres and films and everything were invited, and I got invited from that public show to go and see Michael Benthall at the Old Vic, and so I went and I did an audition for him. And then a few days later, he said, would you come back and do another one? And I went back and he said, I'm going to take an incredible chance on you. And he cast me as Ophelia in Hamlet with John Neville.
John Neville.
Yes, in 1957.
Wow. Wow. Your first role.
So and I got jolly criticised for it. I got a couple of good notices and all the others were bad. But he kept me on there all the time. And so I was at the Vic from 57 to 61. And I just learnt there,
Well, on that question about, that point about criticisms, I've got a student here who would like to ask you a question about that.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Aswa. My question is, have you ever had a negative criticism when performing a role? And how do you deal with that?
Have you ever had yes, I've had more negative than positive, I think.
It's hard to imagine.
Well, you just have to deal with it. And I mean, I was lucky because I was just kept at the OVIC, and I then played other parts, but I also walked on. And when I was at the Vic, I don't ever remember going to my dressing room. If I wasn't on stage, I stood at the edge of the stage and watched everybody else. And I think that's the way you learn, and that's the way you learn to get better, is that you learn not from critics, but that you learn from watching other actors and being in a company of people.
I remember my first opportunity working with you, and I remember enthusiastically asking you for advice, and I did take that. You always said, if you can, find and learn something new in and around a theatre. I was very good at sweeping floors. No, but I did actually get lost in the props making workshops at the National, and I'll come to that later, but what I discovered then. But you're absolutely right. I think it's immersing yourself in everything and anything you can, even if you're not actually doing what you're passionately wanting to do at that time.
Jerry, I so agree with you. And also it makes you understand what other people do. I mean,
Yes.
It's just not about you up there and the other actors. It's about the people who light it, the people who design it, the people who stage manage it, people who prompt. It's about everybody. It's and that's what's been so terrible about the last couple of years, because here in London, as you know, Jerry, there are people who've been on a stage door for kind of 40 years and they've lost their jobs.
Yes, yes.
And they're an essential bit of the theatre.
Yes, yeah. Well, moving on, if I can, I've got another student here. Hannah, would you like to take the mic and ask you a question?
Hi, Judy. My name is Hannah. My question is, what do you believe are the essential qualities that you must have if you want to be an actor?
Hannah, that's a difficult question. You have to have enormous energy. It's no good if you don't have energy. And you have to have resilience. You have to be able to somehow accept that you know that what you might get very, very bad notice, and then you might have to play. You have to play the next night, and you must somehow have a resilience about belief in the play and your director and your cast, that you will, you know, you think what is wonderful about the theatre, of course, is that you can go on to make it better. The thing about film is that it's up there in celluloid and you can't do anything about it. It's
Gone.
hideous, I think.
I remember, I mean, I was amazed at you leaving rehearsals for Antony and Cleopatra and then going off to do an evening performance. I think, was it the Pooters? You and Michael doing that? What was the Pooters, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, you're carrying that role, you're carrying the company, and then you're going off and doing that show 8 performances a week. The energy and the requirement for that is phenomenal. I mean, we tend to equate energy as a football or a sporting requirement, but it's very, very hard to imagine what's needed for the performance in the theatre.
I think it's more to do in a way with acting than it is with sport even, because you have to have that. You don't have that, you might as well give up. So if you get tired quickly, don't do it.
And of course, physical, mental, vocal. But if I can jump on to Hannah's question there, and going further.
How do you deal with bad notices? Is that it? Yes.
Yeah, but no, in your long career with that, with theatre, film, who's certainly in the theatre, who's the greatest actor that you've ever seen perform, work with, known? This was a student's question, but they couldn't turn up. And what made them great, in your opinion? What is it that defines that, do you think? Did you catch that? You lost the sound.
Yes, I did. I don't know though. I'm kind of trying to think about it. What is it to do with? I don't know. It's to do with all the things that we talked about, energy and I mean, I worked with John Gielgud and Peggy Ashcroft in the Cherry Orchard. Now I'm a terrible corpser, as you know, Jerry, on stage and laugh.
I'll come to that later.
Much worse than I was. He got a notice, John. He got the most wonderful notices for Gaev. And one of the critics said, you know, Gaev has to eat caramels. And one of the critics just said, I have one tiny little criticism, and that is I didn't think he was enjoying, you know, this is so typical of a critic, he wasn't enjoying the caramels enough. I mean, really. So the next night, he and I had a scene together, and we came on, and I knew that John was very affected by what people say. Well, he was so busy enjoying the caramels that he forgot to come out with his first line. And then he started to laugh. And we just laughed and laughed. Fortunately, we put it into something to do with Gaev and Anya. He gave me an enormous hug. And perhaps the audience were fooled. I wasn't fooled. But anyway, I don't know what it's to do with. It's a quality of being able to, of the audience wanting to listen to that person.
Yes, that's it. Of being and just being inspired. Well, I suppose inspiring
in the moment, maybe.
Yes. Well, well, taking that on. I mean, you get a script, you get a role. I've got a student here, Jalal. Would you like to ask your question?
My name is Jalal.
Jalal, there's a chap there. That's very good.
Ask, how do you prepare for a role, and does the way you prepare change depending on the play or film that you're in?
Good question.
Well, at the moment, I have a real difficulty at the moment because now I've lost my eyesight in that I can see to get about, but I can't see a script anymore. So I have to be taught now. I'm finding a way of being taught by somebody simply saying it and me remembering it. But I have a photographic memory, so I could tell you exactly where a certain line was on a page. And that, of course, is gone. So that's rather alarming for me. But never mind, I'll get over that. I think you don't just learn the lines. You learn what everybody in the play, what everybody in the play's attitude to you. You hear what they say about you if they talk about you in the play, and you have to take that on board, and then you have to also, through a kind of sieve, you have to work out whether the person who's saying that about you is saying that is speaking the truth, or whether they're trying to gain some kind. You have to put it through many. What's the word, Jerry?
Filters,
Yes.
questions answered, filters.
Yes, that is exactly the word. And then you just have to rely on your director, and
Well,
and take things on board. And the thing about the theatre, of course, is the wonderful thing and the better thing about the theatre than anything is that you can, if you're lucky, get it better.
yes,
You can.
yeah.
I mean, Jerry, do you remember this? I remember. I knew that there was a line of Cleopatra that needed a laugh. I knew it was written for a laugh, and we did 100 performances of Antony and Cleopatra, and on the very last night, I got the laugh.
Yeah.
So it's worth working for.
I remember the jelly babies in Antony and Cleopatra as well. They used to appear around the stage in my hands and everything. Yeah, I remember that. We'll look at those funny moments in a bit. But there was one that I do remember, you walking straight off stage, laughing your head off, having just walked on, when Sally Dexter came on with a big red scarf on her head. Completely wrong, but we'll come to that later. Silly moments in the theatre. Another student I've got, lovely question. Subhan, would you like to ask?
Hi, Miss Dench. Hi, Judy. I'm Subhan. I've heard that you were just talking about how you can't really read a script anymore. So have you been like getting someone to tell you about the script so you can memorize it by their voice? And yeah, is this true?
I get somebody to tell me the story. I remember how
a long time, haven't you? That was, sorry to interrupt, but you did that from the, I remember you telling me that back in the 80s, you'd have people read you the script.
I've always done that, Jerry. Get somebody to tell you the story first.
Right.
And then you have an overall idea about it. I remember saying to Howard Davis when I did Mother Courage, and he was going to direct, he came down and told me the story. I said, okay. And then we did it. And I remember saying to him, you did tell me the story, but you never told me how long it was going to be, because it used to go on. Oh, God. I used to be so tired at the end. And the cart I kept pushing kept breaking down. Oh, it was appalling. But
well, the second part to that question,
yes.
Subhan, what was it?
The second
how do you learn? I'm actually going to see somebody in a couple of weeks' time who has a machine that I think I'm going to be able to read on. So that would be good. That would help.
So what catches your eye about a part?
The story, who's going to direct it, and who's going to be in it. I couldn't do anything. I was asked once to do a one-woman show. I said I couldn't possibly do it. They said, oh, it's a wonderful script. I said I couldn't possibly do it. I wouldn't know who to get ready for. When we did, I can mention this because I'm not in the theatre. When we did Macbeth, the level, we were all together getting ready, and the level of jokiness and childishness and laughing that went on before that play was of a height that I've never experienced in anything else. And that was because we used to all come in and sit in a huge circle. And well, it wasn't a huge circle, it was a small circle actually, but nevertheless, we never left the stage, and the intensity of it somehow required that unbelievable levity at the beginning. We were like children, but somehow it was like blowing the froth off the top of the beer. Somehow when all that had gone, then we got to the actual, we were able then to to really concentrate and make
so like gallows humor. I mean, maybe a little bit of that as well to keep your sanity. I mean, with a play like that, with that subject,
Well, it's such a great play. That was one of my favorites, I must
Would you
say.
tell us if I remember you telling me? Do you remember the story about the cake? You made a cake for somebody in, was it Roger Rees?
Yes.
And the little people that you put on the top of the cake, and it was kept. Would you mind telling us that story?
You're quite right. I made a cake for Roger Rees, who was playing Malcolm, and I made on the top of it with pegs. I made just people who were all like us, with just a wisp of something, so you just about recognize yourself in these things. And I put them on an iced cake, and then I took it to the theatre. And as I think the icing wasn't quite cold enough, because gradually the pegs kind of went a bit, they weren't upright anymore. And John Woodvine, just before that we went on, said, "I think we should all stand as we are on the cake," he said. And so everyone was, I don't know how we got through it. It only lasted for a moment, but it was a tricky moment.
Well, on that introduction, I suppose, of Shakespeare, our next question from Alicia. What is it? There we go.
Hi, my name is Alicia, and what was your first experience with Shakespeare, and how many Shakespeare plays have you been in?
My first experience of Shakespeare was going to see my brothers at school, and my oldest brother played Duncan, and he came in and said, "What bloody man is that?" And I thought, Shakespeare swearing all together. It's wonderful. And so I saw that, and I saw The Taming of the Shrew with my other brother in it. And so I was taken to see a lot of Shakespeare. And my brother used to be able to recite reams of it, which was wonderful when I was a child. And then my first part was Ophelia in Hamlet. And I have, Alicia, I don't know how many Shakespeare plays I've done. But I'll let you, after this is finished, I'm going to write them down. And then somehow I will let Jerry know, and you'll know. A lot is the answer. And some, Midsummer Night's Dream, I've done 3 times.
Wow.
So I could do the whole of the play for you now. And I could also do the whole of Twelfth Night for you now.
Well, I believe you. Your memory, when I still see you in interviews, is phenomenal.
Only for Shakespeare, Jerry.
Yeah.
Only for Shakespeare. I can't remember what's happening this afternoon or what happened yesterday.
One question that a student's not here, but you're so well known for your interpretations of Shakespeare. Which is your most favorite role, and which did you find the most difficult?
I find them all difficult. Favorite. This is, I suppose, to do with the company, and I have to say that Macbeth, we adored playing Macbeth, and I also then played it. I played it before that with John Neville in West Africa for the school of Ghana and Sierra Leone and Nigeria, because their set plays were Macbeth, Twelfth Night, and Arms and the Man. That's not an easy play, sure. Bernard Shaw, that's not an easy play. But we took them out and did them for everybody in the open air. It was thrilling, quite frightening.
Well, next question still goes on and touches on Macbeth. This is Hussein.
Hello, Judy. My name is Hussein. Does playing a role affect your private life? For example, playing Macbeth?
Lady Macbeth.
Lady Macbeth.
Well, sorry, Hussein, what was the question?
Does playing a role affect your private life?
No. No, it can't. I mean,
can you switch off? You go home.
My husband once said to me, if I had been away for a long time and I walked in and saw you, he said, I know whether you were going to the theatre to play a comedy or a tragedy in the evening. Right. So it's something I must give off, some pheromone I must give off, I suppose. But I don't think so. I think unless you're actually, well, of course, you never stop working on a play. Even when it's opened, you don't stop working, because the audience will always tell you something new. So no performance in a theatre is ever the same. The audience always will tell you something new about it, and something you have to think about, and something you may have never considered.
Well, can I ask you, I mean, I think I've got an inkling of the answer, but who has taught you the most? Who has influenced you the most, given you the most advice with Shakespeare over your career, with playing
it? Michael Bentall, who ran the Ovic, and John Neville, who played Hamlet, and who actually had took his company, the Nottingham Playhouse, to West Africa, and I went on that. They taught me the most. I remember we had, gosh, this sounds so strange. In 1958, we had Asian flu, and a lot of the company were off. And I came on to play Ophelia, and I felt so frightful that I was very, very tearful all the way through. When I came off, John came to me and he said, never, ever do that again. He said, if you're not well enough to go on, don't go on. But don't bring what is concerning you onto the stage and interfere with what Shakespeare's trying to tell. And that's a wonderful and harsh note to have. But nevertheless, it's very, very important. You know, that's an extra dimension which the audience doesn't need to know about.
Right, right.
And it's an indulgence too.
Our next question takes us to Cleopatra. There you go.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Maha. Critics have raved about your performance as Cleopatra, but I actually read somewhere that you initially rejected the idea of playing her. Can you tell us why? And was there someone that changed your mind, or was there something that changed your mind?
I don't think I did reject it. I think I was very, very surprised to be asked to play it. But, and I was rather afraid to, well, I was very afraid.
What were you worried about? Do you remember that there's a famous, response you gave to Peter Hall, but you were worried about these
my height.
the height, but the perceived image of Cleopatra and you being offered it at that time in your career. Was that?
Well, I thought I just adored the play. I thought I'm never going to be asked to play that part. Because, you have a picture of Cleopatra and it's the kind of antithesis of what I look like, or what I could even look like. But I couldn't be more pleased, because the challenge of the play was so extraordinary. If you remember, Jerry, and I can remember when we did our first preview, very frightened. I remember Peter Hall coming to my room and saying, well, up to now, that's the best we've done it.
Wow.
And that was the most incredible encouragement. If you know that, then you can build on that and you can get it better. And of course, you must get it better. Has that answered your question?
I think it does. I mean, I think the other thing is, as well, is a few times you've mentioned either with reviews that have not been great, or taking a role that you're scared to death of initially. I mean, that idea is another strength that I know you've got, a tremendous amount of courage. But taking on something that frightens you, I suppose, how do you deal with that? Well, I suppose what's your answer? Getting on with it? Have you ever turned down a role because you've been frightened of that, of the role?
No.
Oh,
no.
Wow.
I mean, I've taken on roles that I've been more frightened of than I've taken the ones that I'm not so frightened of. Only because, as you know, Jerry, you don't want to go on playing the same person, and you want the challenge. You want the challenge of playing somebody. Really, I've said recently, I keep about a film role, I said, you know, why doesn't somebody offer me this wonderful Afghani woman who learns to walk the tightrope and then turns into a dragon in the last act? Do you know, I want to play something. I don't want to play somebody of my age in an old people's home with my feet up the chimney. I can do that at home.
You remember the scream that you did in Lady Macbeth? I've got a question here, because we a lot of the students see it when they're studying the play. Where did that come from?
It is water, by the way.
Mine isn't. No, I'm joking. I should say.
I'll tell you where it came from, Jerry.
Yeah.
You know, she dies, Lady Macbeth, and that wonderful talk about her. And the thing about the play is that it is a passionate love story between two people. They are passionate about each other, and her ambition for her husband is unparalleled. So I think this is what I think. You may completely disagree. But then, after she summons the spirits to give her strength to push him into this terrible deed, as we know, he becomes completely obsessed by it, and he I'm not going to quote it, and you hear that he walks about, he doesn't go to bed, he can't. She says at one point, we lack the, no, here I go, quoting it. Anyway, she says, we don't get enough sleep, she says. And obviously, that huge rift becomes between them, and it becomes wider and wider and wider. And then you hear about the sleepwalking, and then ultimately, after the sleepwalking, you hear that she's died. And I think she dies of extreme grief. And her line is, during the sleepwalking, oh, oh, oh. And they say, well, they remark on, that's a terrible noise, that's a terrible sound. And I think I wanted to make it that was the last possible piece of energy in her that was suddenly left her, and there was nothing else to do but to die.
Last breath, yeah. The other thing, it reminded me, not that I've ever seen it, but Helen Wegel's silent scream idea in the Mother Courage, which you did as well. But this idea of suddenly, you know, because I mean, whenever I played it, it's like fingernails down the blackboard. And the students, I mean, they connect with that. There's either, you know, it's horrible what you came up with. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean, it comes from somewhere, and it's very disturbing.
There's nothing left, isn't there? When there's just nothing left.
Let me bring on our next student who's got a question about combining two of the plays you've done. Adil, where you go.
So the leading female characters in both Antony, Cleopatra, and The Importance of Being Earnest had power beyond what their societies allowed for women. Is this what appealed to you about them? And is it something that women from today should and can learn from?
I do think that. And that's, I mean, they're totally pivotal to the play. And therefore by their nature, they're essential and strong. And I wish there were more parts like it, I must say.
Do you think that's why a lot of actors today, we'll say actresses, but they're playing the male canons, you might say, the roles in the male canon, because those characters are stronger?
Well, maybe, and why not have a go? Why not give us all a chance? You know, I think it's only right, and only right now, that people should be allowed to do that. It's wonderful. Thank goodness it's come around at last.
Question about the importance of being earnest. Lady Bracknell, was playing that part challenging?
It's impossible.
Is it?
It's
And is
impossible
that
because of Edith Evans. It's been absolutely impossible because everybody waits for you to say a handbag. They wait for you to say it. And so that's why I used to barely say it. I used to, you could only read my lips because
Did
I
you-
thought, because
wasn't-
everybody always does a handbag, they go. And you think, well, I'm not going to bloody well say it that way.
Didn't you have on the press night? Didn't you say that you forgot to say it? You were so, the line was so,
No,
you were so worried about it. Yeah, is that right?
I think somebody said we didn't hear it. So it was
Right.
probably so internalized that I didn't actually. I used to be so shocked that my voice had gone. Do you know? That's how I used to play it. So outraged and shocked that her breath was taken away. So therefore, this great line they were waiting to hear, they didn't hear at all.
A question from one of my colleagues, Julia, who's probably right at the back of the room. But where are you? Oh, quick, run over here. She's got a question for you. She's teaching Shakespeare, and a question from.
Hello, Judy.
Hello.
I'm a teacher here and have been for some time, and every year I teach Shakespeare, we teach Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet, amongst others. And I would like some top tips from the top, because not every child, I'm sure they're all beaming behind me, but not every child that we meet wants to learn Shakespeare. And it can be dry for them if it's not performed. Have you got any top tips for us teachers to help engage our young people in Shakespeare?
Well, the thing is that he did, but what makes it, why we're still playing Shakespeare, why we talk about him, is because nobody ever really, I think, in history ever, has ever written about love, anger, jealousy, possessiveness. I mean, where do you end?
Scheming and murder, yeah, as well.
Where do you end? Nobody has ever written like that and been able to sum up something. I mean, when you hear, I also played Juliet for Franco Zeffirelli at the Ovic, and those lines about love, I mean, I remember seeing Gwen Franken Davis, who was a great actress, once in her 70s, I suppose she must have been saying, this is the time I want to play Juliet, because this is the time I understand exactly the power behind what he wrote, what Shakespeare wrote, and the passion. And of course, somebody young does, but they don't have so much experience. So there's a kind of dichotomy in that maybe you can play it when you're much older, but it's too late.
Do you remember Peter said, Peter Hall, of course, sometimes, I know it sounds a bit contradictory, but sometimes you don't need to understand it intellectually, but you do need to understand how it's written to deliver it first.
Yes.
The audience will understand it.
Remember that very, very well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, moving on, thank you. Moving on, the connection now, I'm trying to find a segue from Shakespeare into our next question and the incredible film franchise you were involved with. I have a favorite of them, but before we get to that, we've got a question about 007.
Hi, Judy. My name is Rayan. I'm a big Bond fan. I know that M would be diplomatic, but who is your most ruthless Bond?
I don't know. I don't know. I have a very, very soft spot for Pierce, because Pierce and I, it was his first Bond and my first Bond, GoldenEye. So we were both extremely frightened, but didn't show it. We acted not showing it. But I had a tremendous Bond with Pierce. I didn't mean it to be a joke. But I mean, I just love seeing the films. I love it. All those Sean Connerys and Timmy Dalton, and
Hmm.
And Roger, I love it.
Well, I've got another question which actually connects with the Pierce Brosnan one.
Hi, Judy. My name is Musa, and I personally felt that in the Bond films, M was more of a motherly figure to Daniel Craig's Bond than she was to Pierce Brosnan's. And so I was wondering, was there any difference in the way you approached the role between the Brosnan and the Craig films?
No difference in approaching the role, because they were written by different people. The requirements of me were different. You know, the requirements of M were different. I think I had to try and. I mean, I suppose you have a natural reaction to somebody. I don't know how much. If I were to see them all, I've never seen them all together. I've never seen them all, I think. But if I were to watch, I don't know how much I developed or was actually. I think it's a question of how the part was written in each of them, actually, because sometimes I had a lot to do, and sometimes I didn't have very much to do at all. I remember once complaining to Barbara Broccoli. I said, "You all get to go to lovely places during Bond, and I'm stuck in that old office in Pinewood all the time." I said, "I never get anywhere." And the next one we had to film in a school in the country here. And so they put me in a big trailer. And Barbara walked in one day when she was on the set. She said, "You can never complain again." I said, "Why?" She said, "Have you seen what your trailer's called?" And I went outside and it was called Innsbruck, right across the side. She said, "You've been in Innsbruck," she said. But in actual fact, I did get to go to Nassau, which...
Oh, yes, yeah. That was in Casino Royale, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
What about being killed off in, what was it? Skyfall.
Yeah, that was a lovely idea of Daniel Craig's, I think. No, I think yes, they asked me out to lunch, Daniel and Barbara Broccoli, and they said, you're going to be bumped off in the next one. And somebody, I think a paper said, and I cried and left the Wolseley cry. I didn't cry at all, not at all. I thought I'd done. And then in the very next one, after Skyfall, I had a morning on Spectre, and then in the last one, there is an enormous portrait of me in the hall. So I kind of feel as if I've appeared in 8 or 9 of them.
9, that would make it. Yeah, that's good. I hope you get paid for that.
I bloody hope so.
Obviously the connection there. I was trying to find that clever segue. I didn't achieve it, but was that intended with the Hamlet connection with Skyfall? I mean, and Musa's sort of intimated at this motherly relationship towards Freudian slip towards Bond, but there were actors in that who all certainly cut their teeth playing great Hamlets, and there was you playing Gertrude in the past. You know, I'm just curious. And then Sam Mendes.
I've never thought of that. I've never thought of that, Jerry. That's never even occurred to me.
I should be a film critic with that.
Go back and do it again. Yes, you should.
Yeah.
I'll go back and have another go.
Yeah, no, I thought that was the one of the reasons for it. A big obvious question, but and how do you answer it? But if you can, stage or film, and why?
Oh,
which
stage?
Is
stage.
Why?
I don't like doing films. Stage because you get another go. Because last night can be old hat. You can get it better tonight. And maybe it won't be so good tonight, but then you'll have another go tomorrow. And it's the audience who tell you. The audience inform you.
Do you think actors are trained today in a way that prepares them for the stage enough? I mean, I heard you mention, and it surprised me because I've completely forgotten. I just assumed you get on a stage and you use your voice. But when I've taken students to London, sadly not now at the moment because of COVID, I then realized they're mic'd.
Don't, Jerry, don't talk to me about it. It was after we had done Anthony, that they started to mic people at the Olivier at the National.
Are we that bad? Was that the reason?
No, we were the ones who were good. Oh, I can understand in a musical that you have to, they can put those little microphones in your wig and it takes care of everything. But I think, and I go to the theatre, maybe I'm getting old and can't hear anymore, but I can't hear a lot of the time. So I think people aren't taught anymore to project in a theatre. And project isn't shouting, it's getting your ideas to the man who's sitting on the back row of the gods, as well as getting them to the person who's sitting in the second row of the stalls. And you're taught that. That's part of your training. But I don't think people are taught that anymore because they're given a microphone. So it means you don't have to, but I think it cuts out a whole element of projection of a performance. And I don't mean speaking loudly.
Well, let me bring in another question from our music teacher. And on this point of projection and voice, Simon, away you go.
Hi, Judy, I'm Simon. Sometimes we have students who are auditioning for drama school and they have to sing, but they're not singers. Have you got any good advice for them to help with this?
Oh, I've got the best advice because I'm not a singer either. You have to learn to put over a song, I suppose, because if you can't sing, you have to learn. When I did, in the story of Cabaret, Christopher Ishwood's story, because I played Sally Bowles.
This is the musical Cabaret.
Yes, and in it, I remember Hal Prince saying to me, do read what he says about her. And he says about Sally Bowles that she's a middle-class British girl who can't sing and who can't really, really do it. But there is something about her that is mesmeric, that you have to kind of watch. And I used to have the book open beside me, and I used to read it every single night before I went on. Before I did Cabaret, I was sent to Gwen Catley, who nobody will remember, but she was not an opera singer, British opera singer. And she said to me, Judy, I can't teach you to sing, but I can teach you to put a song over. And I've never forgotten those words. And it's a question of acting it like it is in the theatre, like acting, like giving a performance. And that's all I can say about it, really.
I think the other thing was that with what Simon mentioned to me earlier, and I'd not seen that. I've heard you do it, but from a little night music at Send in the Clowns.
Yes, I'm going to do it again in a few weeks' time.
When? Where?
They're opening the Queen's Theatre in London is now going to be called the Sondheim. So we're all doing a big concert in the evening.
Yeah, tribute evening. Oh, wow.
Yes.
Fantastic. I've got a few more questions as we're coming to the end. Dolores, Ms. Powell, where are you? But before we get there, I've got a question. What does success mean for an actor, in your opinion, and what does success sound like?
Well, I don't know. Success is only to do with, it's only an opinion. Success, unless success is being asked to do things, asked to be asked to be employed. But I think if you're really aware, oh gosh.
Choice? Do you think it's to do with choice? You can make your own choice?
Luck most of the time. I really do. I think it's to do with luck. And if you're asked to play a part, then you're very, very lucky.
Yes, yeah.
Well, thinking of parts, and obviously going back almost back to the beginning, I know about your roots, obviously with York, but before that, Ireland, and one of my colleagues, Dolores, would like to ask you a question.
Hello, Judy. I'm the school counsellor. I'm also from Ireland. So when I've been looking back over your career, I suddenly realized that I think it's your dad or your grandparents were Irish. So I just wanted to ask you how much your acting style is informed by your Irish heritage.
Oh, I'm sure my mother was from Dublin. My father, Dorset, but the family moved when he was 3 to Dublin. And so they were all there. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer, Dolores, really, except that there was always a great amount of jokiness, and that's not really the answer, though.
Do you think it gave you a feel for poetry the way I know you have?
I mean, my father used to be able to recite the whole of the Mort d'Arthur. And also every morning, we lived in an old house in New York, and I was right at the top. And my father was a doctor, always used to get up. Mummy would have gone downstairs already. She'd have said, "Call Judy." And he would come up the stairs, and every single morning I would hear him say, "Awake, for morning in the bowl of night hath flung the stone that sets the stars to flight. And lo, the hunter of the east hath caught the Sultan's turret in a noose of light." That's the Omar Khayyam. So that's how I was woken up every single morning.
Wow.
And we always sing it. We sang in the car all the time. All of us sang in the car. And so maybe that's got something very to do with my Irish roots that I'm very, very fond of indeed.
And champagne and oysters, do you think, as well? Does that?
What?
Champagne and oysters.
I don't like the oysters, Jerry.
Oh, I thought it was lobster. Lobster, I'm sorry. It was
lobster. Oh, how quick you are.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, it was lobster. Molly Malone, but all right, she was selling lobsters, not a.
But I've also recently had done a film called Belfast, which Anna has done, and that's Northern Ireland. And I did have some relations in Northern Ireland, but my goodness, that's a very, very tricky accent. Mm-hmm. So I've had to work a lot at that.
Right. Well, do you think they might do Belfast Part 2? Because I'm working on it now.
Could you do that?
I did actually. I did it for Stones in His Pockets a long time ago.
Did you?
Yes. Yeah.
That's right. I remember.
Yeah. So there we go. Okay, I've got a slight less to do with acting right now, but how's the garden? And one question that came in: could you tell us something about your passion for trees, because I know you've got a woodland and it is extraordinary. And I'll just mention to anybody who cares to want to watch it, there's a wonderful BBC documentary about you going around and caring for and getting experts into your amazing woodland. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
We have, I've got 6 acres, and Michael, my husband, and I, when we came here, which is nearly 40 years ago, we've always been passionate about trees, he and I. And when friends of ours die, we plant a tree. In actual fact, there's about a whole forest to go in now still, and we won't have enough room. But it's very, very nice to see trees. I mean, they become like the people. And when my grandson was born 24 years ago, we planted this little oak, because I'll tell you that story in a minute, but we planted a little oak for him, and now it's a huge oak tree. It's simply wonderful. And so you can watch everything through the seasons. Now, I did a program recently about tracking my family back, and I knew that oak was in my family name, my paternal family's name, because I had a grandmother who was called Bessie Oak Dench, and my grandson is Samuel Michael Oak, and a cousin of mine is Dennis Oak. But then recently, just in the last month or two, I found out that also in my mother's side also was an oak tree with a little sapling planted by it. So that's somehow made it even more important to me about my trees in the garden. I've got one oak that was here during the Battle of Waterloo.
Yes, yes. Oh, and what about the yew tree with the cannonball? That
And the
was
yew
that?
tree, that's to Robert Hardy.
Yeah.
And that was taken from the yew tree that the what am I thinking of, was signed under the oh, forget it, Judy, forget. I'll remember that later. Yes, that's planted because he's the only person I know that could pull a longbow. And that's unbelievably difficult to do. And when we did the program, they brought a longbow to me. And I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever tried. It is unbelievable to draw the string. But he could.
I remember Robert, obviously your dear friend Robert Hardy, I mean, being an expert on the longbow. But
yes.
the overdeveloped right shoulder muscles that these men had, pulling these incredible forces. But going back to the oak thing, we're studying at the moment, Far From the Madding Crowd, of course, Thomas Hardy, Dorset, Gabriel Oak. I'm just wondering if that is I've never thought of it as a Dorset name with your father. You said the paternal connection.
It could well be.
I've got one question as we're coming to the end. Sorry, Judy, I'm sorry to interrupt. I mean, I'm aware of your time, but coming to the end, what do you do with your, one student has asked me, what do you do with your awards, your Oscar, your Golden Globe, your BAFTAs, your, where are they, what are they? Where are they?
They're on a shelf.
I think Mark, when we did Mark Rylance a few years ago, he said, oh, one's a doorstop. And one's a doorstop. And when he gets two, he said, they become bookends and things like that. But okay, I've got one question as we round up. Kyra, when you go.
Hello, Judy. This is Kyra. I just wanted to ask you, who's your favorite rap artist to relax to, and is your ability with Shakespeare why you're such a rap fan?
Sorry, I didn't get the beginning of the question, Kyra.
Who is your favorite rap artist to relax to, and is your ability with Shakespeare why you're such a rap fan?
Who's your favorite rap artist to relax? And is your ability with Shakespeare based on your great knowledge of rap?
My great knowledge of rap is only Lethal Bizzle. Is he a rap artist?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think she is, yeah.
Because I was once in a hotel doing some press on something, and he was in another room, and he said, would you like to come in and we'll do a bit of rapping together? I said, yeah. Okay. Yes. So we did, and I don't know if anybody's seen it, but there we are, rapping together. I know nothing else about rap other than Lethal Bizzle.
I think it's more of a question. It was such a shock, I think, when people saw that video. I showed them the video recently, and also Stormzy paying a tribute to you. They were like, "What?" You know, so there was a lot of reaction to that.
I'm very big in the rap world, you know.
Yes, yeah. Is that where you put your feet up to when you finish?
Oh,
yes. Well, at this moment, I mean, I've gone through the questions that I was sent. There are millions more, but I am very conscious of the time for you. I just wonder if anybody has got a question. They really are right. Quickly run over here, shout it out.
Okay. What is your most favorite role that you've played in Shakespeare, and which one did you find the most challenging?
I don't have a favorite, Daniel. I don't have a favorite. I just want to do the ones I haven't done, but I don't really have a favorite. But it's the thing I like doing most. I mean, the thought of, you know, doing a whole evening of sonnets or an evening of all the bits I know and remember is ideal to me. I can't remember what I did yesterday, but I can remember reams of Shakespeare.
Is there anything, any role that you'd like to return to? Any that you've not done that you feel, I'd still like to do that?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, Jay. I don't know where to start or stop with it. I played Lavinia in what is Lavinia in? With
All's
Paul
well.
Scofield.
All's well.
No. What she have her hands chopped off and her tongue cut out?
Titus
Andronicus. I did that on the radio with Paul Scofield. Gosh, that was a long time. Because I can remember she has, I had to scratch on the ground with a broom handle. I seem to remember.
Pull the tongue out as well.
Satisfactory, actually.
Chopped her tongue out and then cut her hands off.
Cut her tongue, yes, all that.
Good.
I think I'm too tired to do that now.
I've got another question for you. Shazia, where you go?
Hi, Judy. My name is Shazia, and I just wanted to know which is your favorite film performance that you've done?
Oh, my favorite film. Oh, easy. My favorite film was a film I did called Notes on a Scandal.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He's a monster, a monster.
Wow.
And it's a great story. I did it with Richard Eyre, and it's a really great story. And we did it with Kate Blanchett.
Yes, yes.
We had a terrible fight in it.
Yes.
And they made me a thing like a kind of turtle's back to put inside my costume, because she had to smash me against a bookcase at one point. It was the last shot of the film. And I always remember we did it, and we did it several times. And then Richard said, cut. And she said, now we're going to have a big glass of champagne, which I must say we really deserved it.
Wow.
It was thrilling to do. I loved it.
Any film director that you've worked with that you go back to and continue? I mean, Richard Eyre, would he be one?
I've just done a film with Richard, finished it just now, which is Alan Bennett's Alleluia.
I don't know. No.
We've just finished it. It's about well, I won't tell you what it's about, and go and see it.
And of course with Ken, you've done umpteen plays, and with Ken Branagh, that is. Congratulations on your nominations. Have the Oscars come out yet for that in terms of nomination?
Not yet. I'm sure I won't.
Fingers crossed. And will you go? Do you go to them now?
I doubt it.
No. Well, I'm sure. I think I've got lots and lots of hands coming up. It's quick. One question, Ryan. One last question, I think.
Okay.
Bear with us. Totally, we'd be here all day, happily all day. There you go. This is Rayan.
Simple question. What was your favorite subject in school?
My favorite what?
Subject in school.
Subject in school. Oh, what a good question. Art. Drawing. Are you still there?
Yeah, he's there. Yeah, he's there. He's there.
Yeah. Very, very quiet. You've gone very quiet. I suppose English, but I loved painting and I loved drawing, and I still love it.
You said earlier that you wanted to be a designer.
Yeah. That I think probably where that all started.
Is that, do you get a visual on all your characters? I mean, when you're working, you kind of see them very quickly, yeah?
Draw them, yes.
You do?
Just for me, only for me. Yes.
That's amazing.
Which I love, and I now every Tuesday evening paint.
Brilliant.
So
okay.
that's. I mean, as well as I can with no eyes, you know.
Well, Beethoven with no hearing.
Yeah. And Monet, I watched a program about Monet last week. He completely, his eyesight went.
That's right.
So I feel rather encouraged by that.
The colours become more vivid, I suppose, isn't it? That's with Monet. Yeah. Well, Matisse was the other one. The paintings get very vivid. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough, as I'm sure we all are here. I think, do we have Michael or David would like to say a few words for us? Just last two people I would like to ask up to say a few words, and then we will say goodbye. Thank you.
Okay, Jerry.
Go.
Hi, Judy.
Hello.
My name is David. I'm fortunate enough to be the principal of the school here. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you. I feel like we're in the presence of acting royalty here. It's not. I wonder how many principals there are in the world that has somebody like Jerry Flynn come up to you and say, "Listen, I've got somebody for a question and answer session," and you turn around to him at your office and look at him and say, "Who have we got?" And he says, "Dame Judi Dench," and I think my jaw was open for about 10 seconds, Judy, thinking, "Really? You come on, Jerry, you're having a laugh at me," and it was you. And let me tell you, you're absolutely captivating. It's wonderful. I've been looking around at the audience in the room here, and there hasn't been a movement from anybody. Everybody's been captivated by every word that you've said, and we're really honoured and blessed to have you with us. It's an absolute joy. I'm from Liverpool in the UK.
I can tell you're from Liverpool.
Judy, I've been practicing with my accent for about 25 years now to try and refine it. Somebody once told me when I was teaching in Greece that their children were all coming home with Liverpool accents. So the one thing I practiced, Judy, was to try and, well, you know, in Liverpool, our accent is very much something and doing and nothing, and we don't say ing on the end of a word. So I practiced every night. I would say nothing, something, do it to try and improve my accent for the students in school. But obviously, it hasn't worked. So anyway, it's an absolute privilege to have you with us. I wanted to say we've got our superintendent at the back, Dr. Michael Mack, who's our superintendent of our whole organisation, and I'm sure he'd join me in saying thank you for giving up the time. Thank you on behalf of all of us here at ISG and our British School. Can we give Dame Judi a round of applause?